I'm Realtor Deb Tomorrow, and this is At Home in Bloomington, brought to you by Karen Russell, OffHome Mortgage. We profile the people, places, and resources that make Bloomington, Bloomington, and help you live your best life. At Home in Bloomington. Welcome to At Home in Bloomington. I'm your host, Realtor Deb Tomorrow, and I'm joined, as always, by our show sponsor, Karen Russell, Senior Loan Officer at OffHome Mortgage. The crowd cheers.
Yes.
As I like to call her, the best damn lender in the state of Indiana. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for sponsoring the show. Awesome. Well, if you've listened to some of our other shows, you may remember a game we sometimes play with Karen where we don't tell her who the guest is.
No, it's not a game. It's a form of
torture.
Yes.
Well, you know. I tell myself and I tell her that we do this so that she sort of acts as my live studio audience and I can gauge understanding by watching her. But really, we just do it because it's fun.
Yeah, it's fun to do that to me. I appreciate it.
So, do you have any guess so far as to who our guest is today? He's sitting across from us. We'll paint the picture. He's sitting across from us. He looks very distinguished.
Yes.
He has a beard and some glasses.
Yes. And what was the, he's wearing a t-shirt.
Yeah.
That made me think of that series I just watched on TV, The Making It, with Amy Poehler and what was that guy's name?
Nick Offerman.
Yes. He kind of looks like Nick a little bit. The beard.
Okay.
But I don't know. I feel like it has something to do with building or
you're barking up.
I don't want to say crafting because I see different tools there. I see a blowtorch on his shirt. So I don't craft with blowtorches. I'm going to say it's like making something.
I think you're pretty close. Would you?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Though I would disagree on the crafting.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
All right. We'll get into that later.
We'll get into that. Yeah. So this one's going to be a little bit of a stretch for me too, and so I want to tell you how I stumbled upon it. So I actually stumbled upon an event at the convention center that was in August. I guess I should say we're recording this in September of 2018, so depending on when you are listening to this show. But there was an event at the convention center that I saw advertised called Makevention, which is what his t-shirt says. And this intrigued me, and so I started to dig into a little bit because I'm like, what is this? And I discovered a group called Bloominglabs. Ever heard of it?
No.
Right. I had not either. So that's why we're doing this show, so that we can help more people know about it. So as I researched the group, I realized that when I saw their address, this is serendipity.
Okay.
I always say this in yours goes, everything's not serendipitous. I just like to say the word serendipitous. But anyways, I realized that Bloominglabs is housed in a building that I helped the owner buy last year. I think it was last year. Okay. And so, and the buyer, owner of this building is a good friend of mine too. And so I called him and I was like, hey, can you hook me up? I want to meet these people at Bloominglabs. I want to know more about what they're doing. So thank you, Mark. Because he created a meeting, set up a meeting. He actually helped me walk through the facility. And what was even more fun when I got there was that I ran into more people that I knew, that I didn't know were involved in Bloominglabs. But we were walking through all these different rooms, and I just turn around, and there's this guy, Pete, and I'm like, Pete! I'm like, oh, pal Pete. And I had no idea he was involved in Bloominglabs. So you guys fly under the radar a little bit. But I thought this is something we really need to share. And I don't know if it's because we're a little bit older, that maybe the younger folk know about this a little bit more.
No, actually our population range is pretty wide.
And that was definitely something I wanted to mention because as I was walking through the facility, so anybody who's listening to this, it does not matter your age because I saw people in their 20s, 30s, 40s. My friend Pete, I think he's pushing 70.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's all age ranges. So don't get put off by technology. So we're going to get into this. So I should probably introduce our guest before
I would say that because I still don't know what.
So still confused?
Yeah, I'm still confused.
Okay. All right. Well, let's introduce our guest, and then we'll get to exploring what Bloominglabs is. So our guest is Daniel Halsey, and he is the board president of Bloominglabs. So do you have a one-sentence description of what Bloominglabs is?
No.
No. Okay. How about 2 or 3 sentences?
2 or 3 sentences. So we're a makerspace or hackerspace. And we have a lot of tools. We have knowledge shared between all of our members, and we're a community that shares in making stuff together. So, or just the joy of having made something and then seeing that cool thing and sharing that between us. So.
And when you say making things and creating things, that's with whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Anything. It does not.
I'm telling you, it's like you're Nick from making it. I'm not
I would
kidding.
love to be Nick.
Mostly because
That would be awesome.
Megan Mullally, but anyways. So I had read, I think this is a description on your website, which is bloominglabs.org.
Yes.
Okay, we want to repeat that several times so people can go find you. It says, we are a bunch of people that want to do interesting things and explore the world and technology around us. Expression of this interest takes at least as many forms as we have members and often employs an amalgam of found and newly constructed hardware and or open source and self-authored software components. This is where I didn't want people to get turned off and think it's all computers.
Right.
But maybe as simple, this is the best part, maybe as simple as screwing some pieces of wood together to make a useful tool we don't have yet.
Yep. That's
That's what it is. Awesome. So we're going to talk in the second segment about events that are going on, but I want to talk a little bit just more about this idea of Hackerspace because it's something that has been going on probably since the 90s. I don't know if you know much of the history about it.
I know some about the history and how it was brought over from German computer collectives.
Okay.
So Hackerspace does have an origin in the programming world, but it extends way beyond that. So they started as programming groups and started like working together on other projects too. So they started taking apart different hardware and repurposing it. Some of the open source hardware movement comes out of that too, but that's a different topic.
Yeah. It's probably over our heads.
Yeah.
Can we talk about screwing two pieces of wood together?
Yeah.
But it sounds like it started as sort of a collaborative in creating software. My guess is probably gaming and things like that, and then became we can do even more with this concept of collective resources and shared resources.
And so Mitch Altman and a few other people brought the idea over to the U.S. And at around the same time, there were new microcontrollers, new tiny computers that were much cheaper than anything else out there had been. So that opened up the world of connecting a tiny computer to something else and making it go, and attaching flashing lights, motors.
So it's
sounds.
Making technology a lot more accessible to a lot more people.
Yes.
So then the creative juices really start flowing because you've got not just, 6 programmers sitting in a room with some giant mainframe, but you have thousands of people with all kinds of ideas that they want to put into action.
Yeah.
Is that a fair representation?
I think so.
There's a hackerspace have you been to the one in Columbus, Ohio?
I have not.
I read about it's something like 60,000 square feet.
Yeah.
It's ginormous. Yeah. It's just room after room after room of, tools and ideas and projects in motion. Some of this is, funny story, because it made me think of, I have a rental property in town, Bloomington, and there's a separate detached garage, and we've been renting that for years to a group of guys who either live in apartments or live in homes downtown that don't have garages but have motorcycles, and so they have a collaborative group that rents this garage space to work on their motorcycles and their cars and whatever, and they've been in our garage for years, and they're just great steady tenants. So that's something that's probably been going on for 10 years on my property. And then, so when I realized what you all were doing, I was like, well, it's kind of like that, but because you have a car lift.
We do have a car lift.
So one of the things I want to do is walk through the space. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit more about the logistics, because I want to make it clear that Bloominglabs is open to everyone. Oh, yeah. It's not a private... there's membership.
We have membership.
Okay, and talk to me about that.
There are hours where it's only members and our guests.
Yeah.
So once you become a member, you get 24/7 access with a little RFID. We run the system. We've programmed it ourselves.
Oh, nice.
So, on Wednesday nights from 7 to 10, and we just started doing Saturday afternoons. So Saturday afternoons from 1 to 5. Anyone can come in and use the tools. There are a few that you need to be trained on.
Okay.
But for the most part, you can just come in, say, hey, I'm here, I'm going to use this, and you can just,
So is the vision that someone who isn't necessarily a member yet would perhaps contact and say, I need to do this project, do you have tools that could help me do it?
You can do that, or just come down and explore, see, like, if we don't have the specific tool you're looking for, we might have something that will still get the job done. So it's worth coming down and seeing what we have, finding out whether that fits your needs.
And I always try to, when we do some of these shows and they're, maybe new or different things that people have never really thought about taking advantage of.
Yeah.
I always try to kind of walk people through. So if they walk in the door, do they just ask anybody, like, hey, on a public night?
Yeah.
Because I went in there and everybody was kind of doing their own thing, and I was lucky that I had a tour guide from the start.
Right.
So, just ask, hey, can you point me in the direction of someone that can, show me around?
It gets a little crazy on Wednesday nights, but we do try to make sure that
if you see a new face,
we'll come up and try to make sure that you get the tour, that you find out more about Bloominglabs, and that you fill out the liability waiver.
Absolutely. Because when we say tools, there's some tools.
I see a blowtorch or something on his shirt.
Yeah. Okay, let's walk through the space. So first of all, you just moved this year, so it's been a little bit of a chaotic year.
It is.
And did you move because your location was getting
parked?
Parked.
We were in we had a really great deal from the city on one of the warehouses that they had bought to prepare for Switchyard Park.
Yeah.
So we knew that we were only in there temporarily, but we didn't have a great idea of how long it would be. We thought we had another year or so, but it turned out we didn't.
Yeah.
So when the city said, okay, you have to be out in 6 months, they had already helped us find Mark and a few other people
options.
who were, so they said, okay, Mark is fairly close. He's got this building that he's in the process of buying and plans to, or would like to have a group like ours in the space.
Right.
So,
well, I remember when he was buying it because he said, I've got an idea. I've got someone that I think I would really like to get in this space. But he didn't tell me who, and I don't press because it's none of my business unless you tell me. But the space is located 1840 South Walnut Street. So it's kind of, I always tell people it's down the hill.
Yeah.
That's how you find it because it's not sitting right on Walnut Street. It's down the hill. But it backs up to Switchyard Park.
Yes.
So you're still in that same area.
Creek. It's a beautiful backyard.
Yeah.
We haven't had that type of area before. We were in a little mixed-use apartment over on Roll Ave for a while and had kind of a small field near us, but this is so much nicer.
Yeah, right. No, it's a really gorgeous space.
I know you're going to go into that, but it's a wide open space when you walk in?
It's a bunch of rooms. There's some offices up front that are still for rent if anybody's looking for office space. I can put you in touch with the owner. But then there's a big room in back and then several other workshop spaces around it. So talk to us a little bit about what the different rooms are and what equipment are in those rooms.
Sure. So as you walk in, if you're coming in through the lounge, which is kind of our preferred entryway.
Okay, in the back.
Yeah.
So you want people to kind of go between the storage building. You'll see. You'll know what I mean. Go in the back, kind of patio area.
Smaller white building. Lovely copper.
Roof.
Around the south side.
Yep.
You'll come to a garage and a set of double doors on the right and a single door in front of you. I prefer the double doors. It's a nicer entryway. So those go directly into our lounge, which is also our kind of get to know people, get to know more about the space type area, and it's just kind of a nice geeky hangout.
Yeah.
So we've got our library in there. all of the liability waivers and membership forms, little square readers for dues and other things. Yeah, so once you leave the lounge, you go directly into the storage area / car area / wood shop. So it's the largest room.
Yeah.
We've got some partitioning going with shelving. So that's mostly intended for member storage and for stuff that we've found we don't really need and are kind of staging out.
Okay. It looks like, I will tell you, Karen, I was shocked because I've been in that building on and off over several years as we were working on this process of my client purchasing it. And it looks like Bloominglabs has been there for years. I was like, okay.
I feel like I would just want to go in and be a spectator, like just to kind of
Watch
see
people work.
minds in action, just to, I don't know. I mean, I don't, we said earlier before the show started about like, I'm just not creative or, I find it so interesting to watch people just do what they do because it's amazing to me.
Right. So then beyond that, there's several more workshop spaces. I know one was dedicated to...
So we've got the electronics area.
Okay.
And it's nice to have that as its own room. Which we didn't have in the old space. We had a lot of dust everywhere at the old space because it wasn't partitioned well. This is so much nicer. So now we don't get dust in our soldering. So we've got several soldering stations in there. We go down the hall and we're in the clean craft area. So some people call it the craft area, but that's not the only place to craft. So there
you can only decoupage in this one room.
Right. There are see, that's the thing. There are any number of activities of making that are crafting that don't get recognized as crafting because crafting and making are essentially the same thing.
Right.
It's an artificial distinction.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Interesting.
We've got a small lab area off from that. We haven't gotten it going quite yet, but we'll be doing some fabric dyeing, acid for circuit board cleaning, metal reclamation, rust removal. It's...
I mean, basically, if you can imagine it, you probably have the tools to help you
almost
do it, or can potentially help you find resources.
Yeah. And then, so right next to the clean crafting room is our classroom. It's got tables and desks and projector wall, but isn't set up with tools otherwise.
Okay.
From there, you can go either into the metal shop, where we have every different type of welder that you might want. Let's see, metal mill, metal lathes, all sorts of grinding and metalworking tools.
Yeah.
And then the microfabrication lab. So we've got a laser cutter, 3D printers.
3D printers.
Vacuum formers, 3D scanners, all sorts of stuff. So
that's awesome.
Tools all around. Oh, and the wood shop is almost a full woodworking wood shop. It's not exactly, but we're on our way.
And that's probably worth. What are the dues if you
$40 a month?
$40 a month.
Full membership.
Yeah.
But we have a starving hacker rate, which is mostly for students, but anyone else who feels they need it. That's $20 a month.
Great. And I mean, what an amazing way. If you think you want to get into woodworking, it's daunting because you need all these tools, but what a great way, $40 a month to get started and see if it's a hobby you really embrace. But a lot of people don't have the space to do that kind of hobby anyways. So we've got to go to break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the different events and partnerships you have around town and how people can look to get involved, whether it's on a regular basis or just keeping an eye out for the cool stuff that you're doing in town. So stick around. You're at home in Bloomington.
Hi, this is Karen Rastel with OffHome Mortgage. Did you know that you can often save money by purchasing your own house instead of paying rent? There are a lot of perks in owning a home of your own, so contact me today at 812-606-7653 so I can help you invest your hard-earned money for yourself instead of your landlord. Ruoff Home Mortgage is an Indiana corporation licensed by the Indiana Department of Financial Institutions. This is not an offer for extension of credit or a commitment to lend. All loans must satisfy company underwriting guidelines, equal housing lender, NMLS number 141868.
This is your Real Estate Real List. Real advice on buying and selling real estate based on my experience closing over 800 home sales. Today's list is about the basics. What are the first 3 things you should do when you've decided you want to buy a house? While it's tempting to get on the internet date some houses, and then call the listing agent, or worse, click on the more information button that sends your info to random realtors and lenders all over, that's not the best way to get started. Here are the first 3 things you should do. Number 1, interview and pick a realtor. If you are serious about buying a home, this should be your first stop. Randomly calling listing agents to see homes means the seller's advocate is helping you. The person advocating for the seller, not you. You have the right to your own advocate working for you with your best interests in mind, so start there. Number 2, interview and pick a lender and a mortgage type. There is nothing more disappointing than falling in love with a home and then finding out that the payment is higher than you'd be comfortable with. Everything else you look at will be compared against that home and won't stack up. Getting with a lender prior to looking at homes will ensure you only look at homes you can afford. And number 3, you've got a realtor and a lender and a loan program. Now you can start looking for homes. By having established a relationship with a realtor, you signal to sellers that you are a serious buyer. By having your finances lined up, you are ready to move ahead when you find your perfect home. I know the boring stuff first, but I promise you that if you follow these steps, it will ensure a smoother process with less frustration and disappointment. And honestly, all that boring stuff up front can be accomplished in just a couple days. So contact me and I can get you started. For more information on the basics of getting started buying a home, check out my Real Estate Today podcast, episode 46. You can find it on my website, YouTube channel, iTunes, and all your favorite podcast sites.
My name is Donna, and my realtor is Deb Tomorrow. When it comes time to buy or sell a home, she is the obvious choice. Deb is not your average realtor. She stands beside you all the way, before, during, and after your real estate transactions. Deb is passionate about real estate, and it shows. So just do it. Choose Deb. Now back to the show.
All right, welcome back to the show. Before we get back to our guest, Daniel Halsey of Bloominglabs, this is our Facebook Follow segment where we highlight a business or organization that we think you should follow on Facebook and seriously consider using. So I'm going to get sentimental for a minute here, which is not something I do very often.
It's not, no.
So I'm going to talk about my grandfather. He was a little bit of a unique man. I remember that he would walk for miles and miles and miles. He would just find some train tracks and just follow them because he figured they would always eventually lead him somewhere.
Okay.
And she was pretty much right on that. And he didn't fly, so he would come out to Indiana on a train or a bus from Oregon to visit us. So I remember that too. So when he'd come out for a few weeks because it took him a long time to get here. And there was a lot I didn't understand about him, but one thing I always knew when he left our house from his visit is that we would have sharp knives. Because my poor mom was always looking for things to keep him busy and keep him from walking the train tracks.
So she gave him the knives to sharpen?
So he was always his job to sharpen the knives. And I feel like it's a forgotten art form. So I think a lot of us, I don't know if you ever sharpen your knives?
I try to. The thing that came inside, or that comes with your block, like I have a butcher's block or whatever knife. There's a thing supposedly in
steel?
there.
Is it round or is it?
It's round, and you're supposed to do that. But I'm telling you,
that
it doesn't really.
It hones.
Yeah, it straightens the blade.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sharpen the blade. And they're two different things, right? So the steel is like the long thing you always see that stuff like look fancy or whatever. But sharpening is something different because you actually have to grind away. And we've tried to do it with like our own little block, and which is how my grandfather would do it, but hours on end, and it's like that just doesn't even make sense. So after several months of trying to get downtown on a Saturday morning, which seems to be impossible in my life, I made it, and I have sharp knives. And I've just been cutting vegetables all week. It's been amazing. So Bloomington Precision Sharpening Services, they have a booth at Blooming Foods West. most Saturdays during the farmer's market, you got to go into the parking lot. It's in the back corner. I wandered around for a second because I couldn't find it. But I was like, I know they're here because I messaged them on Facebook and they responded right away and told me they were going to be there.
And you're just carrying a bag of knives.
I was. So my friend Cynthia was like, because I had to stop at her house for something first before I went down there. And she said, so there's a realtor wandering around town with a bag of knives.
Exactly.
And getting ready to walk into the farmer's market. We'll set some bail money aside for you. And I was like, well, thank you very much. I didn't. That was my other stumbling block. I didn't know how I was supposed to transport the knives. So I had a bag and I had them wrapped, because I had about 4 or 5 or 6 knives that I took, wrapped in kitchen towels. And so I'm standing there feeling kind of sheepish because I'm like, I really don't know what I'm doing here. And the people in front of me start unwrapping their knives from kitchen towels. And I'm like, okay, apparently my instinct was correct.
Well, you're not like an assassin where they would have this nice black felt thing that they unfold and they take it out of a sleeve. And
what's nice is when he gives you the knives back, he has these nice little cardboard sleeves. And I'm like, I will save those. But I dropped them off. They were ready like a half an hour later. It cost me like $20 to get like 4 knives sharpened.
Do you know that's going to be a life changer at my house? I don't cook. It'll be a life changer.
Life changer. Yeah. I think they are also, so follow them on Facebook, Bloomington Precision Sharpening Services. I think they also hang out at the Winter Farmers Market. That's usually at Harmony School. At least it has been in the past. So they are around, and they also do pick up and drop off. So if you're somewhere in town, they are happy to. I found them because they sharpen Buffalo's knives. And we're friends with the people who own Buffalo's, and that's how I stumbled upon starting to follow this guy and thinking, I'm obsessed with getting my knife sharpened. Why did it take me months to do?
Don't get on Deb's bad side. She has
I have sharp knives.
Yeah, sharp knives.
Okay, so that's our Facebook follow. All right, let's get back to Daniel and talking about Bloominglabs. We took a break between segments, and we were talking, and Karen was being super inspired to go build things.
Well, I feel like, like I said, when I watch people, or a couple weeks ago, I watched 4 hours of YouTube videos on decoupaging. And I know that sounds really silly because the more I watched it, I think I was just watching it for the whole entertainment value. Now I understand why my son likes to watch other kids play video games. Like, it's so weird. But it really makes you feel like I can do that. But I felt like I had to watch enough shows to feel confident to go buy the materials. So what I was saying is, I think I just want to come down and just kind of, stalk and watch people as they're creating. And
well, and you said that there's a barrier to entry on a lot of things where you don't have the tool, and when you think, oh well, I need to buy this, and this, and it adds up. It's like,
right. A lathe is not cheap, and then all the woodworking tools.
But if we have them, or if we need them and can do a group buy, and we've done that for a few things. We've done that for a welder. We've done that for our laser. We're planning on doing that for a wood planer. We had one, but it's not in good condition, so we're getting rid of it because we need tools rather than projects.
Yeah.
But so there's tons of stuff down there I would never buy, never afford for myself.
Right.
And which really wouldn't fit in the garage.
Right.
I want to be able to park my car in the garage in the winter.
Right.
So, it's
amazing. Can you share any interesting projects that anybody's currently working on or has worked on, just to kind of inspire us all?
Let's see. So there are too many. I'm blanking. I'm sorry.
I was talking about one, and I was like, I want to talk about it on broad terms because, I feel like these projects are sort of people's babies, and I want to respect them. But, even inventing medical devices and things like that can be the kind of thing that's done. One of the events that you all did recently, and I don't know if you've done it before, but it was with the what county are we in? Monroe. Hi. Monroe County Public Library. And it was a Fix-It.
Yeah, the Fix-It Fair.
Fix-It Fair, that's what it was called. I remember my friend Pete, when I ran into him at Bloominglabs, and he was like, I was down there fixing lamps.
When was this?
A couple weeks ago.
It was the 18th.
I think I saw that because our paper shredder at home had just broken. And, my husband who I'm sure
He's
may
frugal.
not. Well, he would be like, I can fix it, but no, it's done. And then I read something maybe online or whatever, and I thought I should take it down there, and I didn't. But I bet someone could have fixed it for me. It's still broken. I need to
So
do that again.
fairly frugal bunch as well. So yeah, we actually like fixing stuff ourselves. We usually, rather than fixing things for people, help them fix them themselves.
So they learn from
And
it.
that was actually the point of the Fix It Fair, to not only repair things for people, but let them know that this is something that they can do too.
That's
Like,
awesome
this is-
because, when on that example of the shredder, when I went to, I thought if I unscrew these 4 screws, like what's going to happen when
Right.
I open it up?
Right.
And so then I just didn't.
And, don't be afraid to void your warranties, because if it's broken, if it's out of warranty anyway,
Yeah.
you're
What's the
not-
harm?
Right.
So is that Fix It Fair something that you all participate in?
This was the first year.
Okay.
We'll be doing it next year whenever
Yeah.
they, actually, I think we might be partnering with the library next year on it,
Great.
rather than just being a participant.
Yeah.
Like we were this year.
So keep a lookout for that because that's a really fun event. And then I wanted to make sure that we talked about the Makevention, which
Yes.
had just, again, we're recording this in September of 2018, but that just happened
Yes.
in August. And this was not the first year.
Oh no, this was our 6th year.
6th year.
It's always the weekend before Labor Day weekend.
Okay.
So
And this year it was perfect. I thought I stopped by and just took a quick walk through because it was sort of a rainy Saturday.
Yeah.
And I thought that's perfect because
Yeah.
these parents are wanting. There were
of
so
stuff
many
indoors.
kids, so many
Yeah.
kids running around, watching robots, learning how to pick locks, which was a little frightening, and then crochet and knitting and dyeing yarns.
Yeah.
And so I mean there was IU, a group of women engineers. And all kinds of great stuff, and it was completely free too, which is
Right.
the best part.
So actually, on the lock picking.
Yeah,
So a lot
there was
of people,
videos, and there was a huge
Oh, yeah.
crowd watching the video
Yeah.
on how to pick locks, and I was like,
Sure.
"Is this good?"
Well, thieves already know how to pick locks.
That's true.
Why shouldn't you?
Right? Fight fire with fire.
Well, and know how secure your house is, know how secure your locks are.
Yeah.
So it's about not getting knowledge out, and not making it specialized knowledge.
Ah.
So if that information is freely available,
Yeah.
then everyone is better off.
Right.
So you're more secure because you can pick your own locks.
Right.
And know that, well, it only took me 30 seconds to get
Right.
through this door, so
Maybe I need to
should get a
beef it
better
up a
lock.
little.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. And now let's talk about the workshops that you have that go on at the Bloominglabs
yeah.
location, because these are some specialized events that go on throughout the year, and I want you to follow them on Facebook because that's really where I kind of discovered some of them. But you've got workshops going on all the time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Eh.
And this year we stepped it up. We have been running more workshops than we have before, and the segmented space really allows that.
Because you've got a classroom kind of space
exactly.
you can use. And some of those are free, and some of them have costs if there's materials involved.
And usually there's a cost even beyond materials,
Okay.
but it's nominal. It's intended to be a fairly low barrier to entry, but to pay our bills.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of the topics?
So we've had laser cutting, welding, microcontroller programming. So that's programming a tiny computer to do whatever.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
We should do that, Karen. You think?
We should, yes.
That's
3D
funny.
printing.
Yeah.
Needle felting. We're going to be running knitting and crochet soon. An intro to tools. So if you don't know what you need or how to approach a tool in the workshop, then this is going to be one of the workshops that lets you just get into it, get acclimated, and not worry about cutting your thumbs off with a saw.
So you just let
yeah.
people wander around and go, "What's this?"
Oh, yeah.
And then they tell you what it is and what it does. Interesting.
And soldering. We
Yeah.
run lots of soldering workshops, so it's kind of key to any electronics work. You can do electronics without soldering, but it's much easier if you don't know.
And where's the best place for people to find your list of workshops?
That's on bloominglabs.org.
Okay.
We usually have the latest workshops that are coming up, and PayPal links to pay for and register for them. So
awesome. What's on the horizon? 2018 has been a big year for you all with the move, and I know trying to kind of get situated. And do you have any big projects coming up or new exciting things coming up?
So we'll be at the pumpkin launch again.
The trebuchet.
Yes.
You know what that is? With the launchers.
That's what it's called.
You build, right?
Yes.
They have different groups build these trebuchets, which launch the pumpkins. Yeah.
I've never gone, but yeah.
That's I assume in November. After.
I think it's the weekend after Halloween.
Yeah. So that's fun.
We use all the leftover pumpkins.
Yeah, right? We should definitely.
So that's the next big event on the horizon. But yeah, more workshops. We've had a cleaning day in the clean craft room. So, excuse me. So the knit and crochet workshops are the next one on deck for that. But we've also been talking about a dyeing party. So
not that kind of dyeing.
No.
Okay.
No.
Colored kind.
There might be Kool-Aid involved.
Oh, okay.
But
not that kind of.
Not that kind either. So you can do Kool-Aid dyeing, acid dyeing,
do vegetable dyeing,
yeah,
beets and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Bring your fibers, bring your colors, and we'll make it happen. But more cool tools are also on the horizon. So the planer, as mentioned, we're fixing up our mini CNC machine. So it's a little carving machine that you can feed a design into, and it'll carve your thing out of wood or plastic.
Like 3D carve.
Yeah, 3D carve. So the laser cutter only does 2D.
Yeah.
It cuts straight through, but this does 3D.
Wow.
We're also looking at potentially larger version of that. So one that cuts a full sheet of plywood, potentially.
All those things that you see, like Chip and Joanna Gaines do, you know, they always go into the metal shop, and she has some really cool wall hanging made on the Fixer Upper TV show. You could potentially do something like that there. Do you have a list on your website of the equipment and tools that you have available?
We have most of that on the website.
Okay. So people
but we
could
need
go
to
there.
Get a little better about that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And who are you looking to connect with? Who are, you know, whether it's members or whether it's resources, because you need both for a strong organization.
So we're always looking for new members. We have room to grow, and the new space has helped with that. But we've also got some new members with new energy, and introducing new types of making to the space. So new members are the main one, but we're also connecting with other spaces in town. We've had good connections with the maker spaces at IU, but we know that there are other groups in town. The Overlook, for instance, we've just started collaborating with them on, just an initial talk, but we're working towards.
So other similar groups, like the guys who rent my garage, that could potentially be a good synergy or offer additional resources, or need, perhaps they need classroom space to, do something with, or meeting space or something like that. Because you also have that. I mean,
we do.
Yeah.
And we've also been part of a STEM discussion that was hosted by the Community Foundation.
Okay.
So the main part that they hosted is over, but we're trying to make sure that discussion between schools and businesses and organizations around town continues, so that we have a sustainable STEM community, STEAM community in Bloomington, not only at the elementary or full K-12 range, but also so that kids can see themselves in STEM-based careers
Yeah.
in the area.
Right.
So
Yeah, I know that that I believe Bloominglabs originally started as sort of a partnership, and IU Robotics was part
Right.
of that. And I have some friends who have kids that are involved in the robotics programs at their school, and I think, I don't even know what that is. It's such a foreign concept to me, but I think it would be really cool for those kids in those robotics programs to have this other place to go,
Oh, yeah.
you know, because it is all ages,
Right.
and be able to continue some of that work, you know, something to do in the summer, you know.
Right.
I mean,
and we had a good example of that, that childhood through late adulthood, like progress at McVintion this year, with the SpockBots group,
Okay.
Which is a middle school robotics team.
Okay.
Through IU, where informatics has their new engineering program, and they were showing off their robotics work, and Cook was there, and the IU, the Jacob School Theater and Opera department
Yeah.
were showing off the way that they, as professionals, the Cook group showing kidney stone removal tools, and the theater and opera group showing off some of the props and costumes that include electronics, lights, laser cut
Interesting.
plastics, and just detailed professional making.
Yeah.
So
I mean, this isn't just a hobby. There's skills there
Right.
that can be learned and transferred to, you know, all the way from medical, which, you know, seems
Yeah.
kind of an obvious, and computers to the arts, which
Right.
is amazing to think about, too. Are you inspired, Karen?
I am, and I
need to go
You know, we didn't have this.
I know.
We didn't have this when we were
in the dark ages.
Yeah, I think my son's school. I think there's people involved. I don't know where
Yeah.
they do it, but it's like they didn't have that when I was that age.
we
So
lost shop class for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, in the 80s, I think, 70s, 80s, I was thinking about this morning because I thought, why didn't we, you know, there was technology, but I think we were so enamored by all this new technology as we
Yeah.
were growing up. You know, it's like the Atari and the, you know, all that stuff was so new. It
Yeah.
satisfied us
Yeah.
because it was so new. You know, the cell phones and the car phones. I mean, we were satisfied with the big, bulky because it was just so new and different. And now, you know, it's hard for that thirst to be quenched, you know, in terms of technology. And
Sure.
so we're like, but I want more, you know, it's just sort of ramped up. So, well, I want to encourage everyone to go to bloominglabs.org. I want to encourage everyone to go to 1840 South Walnut Street on Wednesday evenings between 7 and 10 and check the website to
Saturday
see if,
afternoons
yep,
from
Saturdays
1 to 5.
1 to 5 as well. And just check it out. Just walk in and say, hey, I'm new. I heard a podcast and I want to just see what you have going on because there's some really cool and fun stuff and a whole different sense of community down there, which I think is a great thing for people. So thank you so much for joining us
Thanks
today.
for having me.
And we'll be back next week with another show. Got a show idea? I'd love to hear it. And be sure to contact me for all your real estate needs and questions too. You can email me at deb@realrealestatetoday.com and follow me on Facebook at Deb Tomorrow Realtor. To contact Karen Rastel for all your mortgage needs, call 812-606-7653 or log on to ruoff.com and go to the Bloomington Center. Thanks to all the Bloomington people who make production of At Home in Bloomington possible. Special thanks to superstar producer Rachel G. Gregorio, digital guru Cynthia Hogan at Monster Digital Marketing for website design and hosting, and video genius Wes Lasher in the production house for engineering the show.